The primary purpose of Innovative AAC Solutions, the podcast, is to educate and inform. The views expressed during all episodes are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute educational or medical advice. They are not necessarily the views of Special School District of St. Louis County. Hey guys, welcome back to Innovative AAC Solutions. We're your hosts, Laura Hayes.
And I'm Cheryl Livingston.
And Cheryl.
Laura, where are you? Can you hear me way far away?
I'm about to beam down. That's your clue. I feel like I'm not actually in the captain seat, but I feel like I am.
You are. Yeah, it's like, who was that first row? That's what, you're the, it's not maybe the captain, but it's the person in charge of taking care of the ship. So yeah.
Right. Nope. Piloting. I mean, it looks like a ship. I don't think we're giving anything away there, but this is our fun game that we keep coming back to this season where I'm just transported to different places and we love giving away prizes. So if you are the first one to email Cheryl or myself, we will give away some AAC swag that you can use. Maybe it'll be a little implementation thing or maybe a visual support. I know there's some new calendars coming out, Cheryl. Is that your fun find?
Well, kind of on that same idea. Let me show you. So what I have found, speaking of a new year, back to Instagram. This is Anna D, SLP, gave us a whole year's worth of monthly theme ideas. So I know some of us like to kind of plan according to a theme, but you may be kind of stuck in a rut as far as the same things every month. So let's see what Anna has for us as far as suggestions. So we're going to start with January, everything from hot chocolate, snowmen, penguins, Arctic animals, hibernation. I will volunteer to be a,
from that theme.
What? How long can Cheryl hibernate kind of a thing? And you guys could count the days. You could get all kinds of good information out of that. Yetis, Chinese New Year. That would be a new one that I haven't think I've ever put a theme together for.
I would be all about Yetis.
Yeah. Then she goes to February. So every single month she has a list. So I think this is a pretty cool thing for you guys to have in your back pocket. We always talk about motivating our kids, making things fun. And I think when you can pull it together as a theme, not that you're rigid about it, not that, this day you have to do this and the kids have to say this. I want the students to kind of lead you. But if they've got a topic, maybe it'll be a more exciting, and maybe they'll have things that, they're going to bring up, that whether they're learning it or whether it's something that is brand new to their situation. You could be teaching is what I'm trying to say here, not just reviewing. So anyway, just I'm going to put this on our site so you guys can have access to this. But even May and June, those of us that are working through the summer, June and July, then she gets into the next year with our school year and back to December. So I thought that was a fun one that would be everybody could take a little piece from and hopefully would feel like they were having more fun in the coming year.
Yeah, just other areas to explore, right? We know that interest can be different. And I think for parents are always looking for ideas too over the summer. Like, what a great idea just to kind of get them started on some different themes. So ideas with themes and just being creative. One of the things that I hear a lot, Cheryl, you'll have to tell me what you think about this, is the idea of how do we do this in a group? Do you get that ever?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And I see a lot more. Well, we've always had groups, but I'm hearing a lot more from therapists that I support that's the only option they have because they're so busy and the kids' numbers are high and the staff is low. We know that. So yeah, groups are big. Yes.
Yeah, and we have a lot of different abilities in our groups, and then they're on different systems, and so there's so many dynamics that make groups challenging when trying to implement AAC. So enter this phenomenal resource that I found from communicationcommunity.com. Don't say that 3 times fast, but communicationcommunity.com. They have put out this wonderful little resource on supporting AAC in groups. It is, games, crafts, and conversations. What I love about this is the simplicity of it. It's so clear. It can be used with all different ages, all different ability levels, all, like wherever you're at on your AAC journey, these ideas are very universal, but still very engaging. So, social group, right? She
Mhm.
includes some types of questions you can ask, like, how are you? What's the weather like? Things that we would ask anyone, right? I
Mhm.
ask, I don't have a window here in my office, so I'm constantly asking, what's the weather like outside? Activity questions, your favorites, all kinds of things. You can, and like the idea too, just drawing topics out of a hat. Maybe they're related to those
Mhm.
themes you just shared, right? What's your
Mhm.
favorite part of St.
That's right.
Patrick's Day? What's your favorite part of Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, whatever it is. Playing games, she gave some examples here of Connect Four, Candyland, all those good things.
Mhm.
Because for some kids, the games and the competitiveness might be really motivating.
Yeah.
And turn taking too, like all of those good structured opportunities, and then embedding some of your other language targets in there when it's their turn. And making crafts. You and I both liked this
Mhm.
for all ages,
Mhm.
right? Whether it be
Yes.
making crafts or making recipes, right? They can be the one directing you or others on what to do. And that we know is motivating and a really good place to start. So, like I said, super
Yeah.
simple, but we can use it to scaffold to each individual child's need in the group,
Mhm.
but not overwhelming.
And right. No, fun. Definitely fun. And another, I can't think now exactly where I saw it, but somebody else was advocating for blending groups, just as far as that social piece too. We want our kids talking to each other, not just to you as the therapist or to, the support staff. So they were talking about having more opportunities for the kids to get together in a, like you were saying, game situation, but not make it everybody's got a device. We make it the kiddos that are working on all different kinds of skills, but they talk. It's about you stepping back and letting them play the game rather than it being, we're taking data. Yeah, it's more about, hey, how many times did that kid just, you know, initiate, speak up for themselves and try something different that maybe you wouldn't have seen if it was just you and he, by themselves. So I like that. I like that idea of we got to help make the situation better. The situation's already here. We know groups are a part of our lives, but how can we make it so that you feel like you're getting more for the time that you're spending? Good.
Exactly. And I think it goes back to that motivation piece, right? A lot of kids are motivated by their peers. Let's lean into that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
find things that we can make dynamic, but we're not having to reinvent the wheel because you mentioned, Cheryl, we don't have a ton of extra time
Mm-hmm.
to do all the things we want to do. And if we don't have that time, how can we make the use of what we already have, and make it applicable to everyone? And as far as like resources and constantly looking to the latest greatest or the thing that's going to work for the most AAC users, is there, I've been kind of thinking maybe we needed some fresh ideas or some just more ideas about how to make things motivating and fun for our AAC users. So is there anyone that you think we could maybe look to for that?
Well, I've been to several presentations at conferences where Lauren Enders has been a person that every time I have ever heard her, even on AAC in the Cloud, which is in the summer months, free online AAC courses, just she's creative. She's got, and not just for therapy purposes, but for me as a professional learning how to do things better. She's been somebody who has, shared and I always feel like she's on the cutting edge. I don't know how she learns it all so fast, but she's got it way before I've ever heard of it. So you thinking maybe something like that, Laura?
Well, gosh, Cheryl, I want you to know that I just forgot that I did do an interview with Lauren Enders that I could share with everyone. We sat down and we did talk about all these things. So,
Yes, you
I
did.
completely agree. She is one of those amazing, innovative minds, whether it be the newest, coolest AR app or whether it be she just had shared about some wrapping paper that she found that had signs on it. So
Hmm.
signs
Yeah.
is in sign language, and I just was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And so wonderful that that's represented. I think she found it at Target. So just things like that, right? Just the latest and
Yeah.
greatest. So
I
I
think
think,
what that tells me is her mind is always on. She's looking, she's thinking, she's searching. To whereas, and I personally, I get excited about that kind of stuff too. Well, what could this become? What could this do different? So she's that kind of a person. She's always wondering.
Agreed. So, without any further ado, let's lead into our interview so you can get into the mind too of Lauren Enders. Hey guys, welcome back to Innovative AAC Solutions. I'm here with the amazing, the wonderful Lauren Enders. Lauren, hi.
Hi.
How are you
So
doing
nice
today?
to see you.
So
or
good to see
hear
you.
you or everything. I am good. I am good.
So I feel like you're kind of one of those staples in the world of AAC. You always have a new idea. You always have a great new resource. But for someone who maybe has been living in a cave or on a great island in Fiji somewhere and they haven't been introduced to you, can you just give our listeners a little bit about your background and how you kind of started in the world of AAC?
Yes, that's actually pretty easy. So I am an SLP. So I have a master's in speech and language pathology from the University of Pittsburgh way back in 1995. But while I was at the University of Pittsburgh, I had the opportunity to have a number of different practica with, typical school placement and a center-based school placement. And I realized that individuals with assistive technology needs were the ones that really, really excited me. I loved working with people and figuring out technology to help them. So I went that direction from the beginning. So when I got my very first job, which was with an intermediate unit, which is a regional service agency in Pennsylvania, I asked for the kids with physical disabilities and communication, and complex communication needs. Although I don't think it was called complex communication needs then. I think I just said AAC users. So since the beginning, I have really been focusing more on the population that is going to need these types of assistive technology supports, including AAC. And then in 2008, I believe, I became a full-time augmentative communication consultant in my role for the regional service agency I work for, Bucks County Intermediate Unit. So that really kind of set me on a path even more specifically towards AAC rather than all of AT. So that's really how I kind of ended up here. And then I think the way that I ended up in the AAC community in the world, so to speak, is because I created a Pinterest site when Pinterest was first a thing. I realized that every time I made a spreadsheet with the best iPad cases, that it was out of date as soon as I made it. So I was like, wait, there's this Pinterest thing. So I started Pinterest just so that I could have boards of iPad cases for AAC and AT users. And that kind of blew up. And then here I am, I present and get to do all kinds of fun stuff.
Like I knew the thing about Pinterest, but it makes so much sense in the way that you kind of organize and share out your resources. So I love that.
Yeah.
I love that little tidbit.
Thank you.
One of the things I love about the resources that you share, and I think our listeners would love to hear about, is the fact that you do such a nice job of kind of zooming in for an individual with at the same time zooming out for the therapist or someone who might be working with them. So you find resources that follow a child's lead, but also and are super engaging and motivating, but also in the sense that they're pretty engaging for almost anybody that therapist or staff or team might work with.
I try. That's kind of one of my soapboxes, is that it's got to be fun or we're just not going to get anywhere. And whether that's a child or an adult, doesn't really matter. I'm also kind of on the weird side, goofy. I'm going to say it. So in the AAC community, because I am so eager to do anything that really engages a student, I somehow have become known in the AAC community who's the one that if you have a really great fart activity, you send it to me. So I get like Facebook messages from other AAC folks. I get emails. So like whenever there's some kind of really great bathroom humor oriented game or activity, they all come my way and be like, oh, I thought of you. And I'm like, I'm so proud. I'm so proud.
Oh my gosh,
But
that's hilarious and so applicable right now, because I was just talking on social media about the concept of, and I remember, it's not quite the 90s, but I do remember when I was doing AAC evals when I first started, and every child in an assessment would find the fart button. They've kind of eliminated it from our systems now, but they would dive way down deep, and like it'd be 8 pages in, and I'm like, how did they all find this button where it makes fart noises?
yeah.
Oh,
so I learned kind of early on to just go with it. Whatever is silly and engaging, like what in my mind, what I'm trying to get many people to focus on is we are not to focus on what we want them to say. We are to focus on what they want and need to say. So if we can wipe out of our minds a pre-prescribed thing, and just have kind of more open-ended, engaging, fun discussions about stuff that they like. I mean, it could be that they really like Egyptian history, and maybe you're not so into Egyptian history, but you could pull in characters or images, or there's so many different kind of open-ended things that you could at least engage them that way, and then go from there. So I'm also kind of I'm a bit of a fly by the seat of my pants therapist, in the sense that I've never been one to really do super detailed lesson plans, because I wouldn't stick to them anyway. I would kind of go off on a side note or just whatever. If they seemed, all of a sudden I saw that they were incredibly interested. So let's say that we were talking about Egyptian history, but I also noticed in that session that they have a favorite little squishy, which is some kind of little koosh ball. And that, they're very, very concerned about where that squishy is and whether they can hold it. So maybe I'll say, I know we should do a story about when the squishy went to the pyramids. And then I'll take a picture of the squishy, remove the background, and then I'll find like a whole bunch of Egyptian pictures, and I'll use something like Canva or Google Slides or PowerPoint. And then we create some kind of weird story where their squishy koosh ball is the center of the action. I might even put eyes on it, and I might ask them to tell me which eyes. So about the big eyes, the little eyes, the googly eyes. So that's the kind of weird stuff that comes out of my brain.
You say weird, I say creative and innovative, in the sense that you're thinking on the fly. I also hear you saying, just like as far as following their lead and being flexible in how we present information. And like what I love about your example is that you didn't give up on the Egyptian history. Like maybe that's the academic content that we have to put, on paper. You pulled in what their thought process was in the moment.
Yeah, there's so many things we can do that can pull in things that engage them, even if we are kind of married to the content. I mean, there are times where it's school and we have to be, teaching the content we're teaching. But I try to always remember I can be within that content and not be expecting them to say sarcophagus. That I can use core words and I can engage them other ways, but we can pull in the things that really excite them and make them want to communicate. So it's a kind of a fun challenge.
Absolutely. And I hear you kind of saying too that you can incorporate their goals. So if the goal is some target core vocabulary, then still use their individual preferences, but still use your targets and incorporating the device and whatever your academic goals might be. Is that fair?
Right. Yeah. So what I would do is I would look at their goals before we start. I might even have I'm a person who likes cheat sheets and handouts that are really clear, like 3 bullets in your face, like that. There's no having to sort through anything visually. I like things that like pop out at you. So I probably would have maybe even just keywords from their goals bulleted at the top of my little data collection sheet. And then I might have a box that says, core words used, that I would just kind of not, jot down the core words that they use. And then I might have something that has notes, because I'm one of those people in a session where I cannot stop taking anecdotal notes. Like I cannot stop writing sentence. If they said this awesome phrase, like I want to write down the whole thing. I don't just want to check off a box that says they use the word can. I want to say that, I can, well, we could say fart since we already went there. So, that kind of thing. But I think it's fun.
Yeah. And I think it goes to the data collection speaks to my heart. So like qualitative over quantitative, right? We don't have to have 10 check marks at the end of our session. If we have one really amazing, autonomous, independent, spontaneous novel utterance that's 8 words long, like that is the goal.
Yep.
Versus they said I can fart 10 times with maximal prompts. Yeah. Like who cares about that? So what about what would your recommendation or some suggestions if someone was struggling, if they said my student or my child doesn't have any interest, like they kind of just take whatever comes to them?
I have that's something that happens quite often, especially with individuals who are much more complex. The more complex the individual, whether that be cognitively, whether that be a physical disability, whether that be their communication impairment, the more complex they are, it seems like the more likely it is, especially when there's behavior involved, the more likely that there is that I'll hear, oh, well, they're not motivated by anything but food. I'm just like, well, I'm not doing an M&M for a word. I'm not. That's not fair to them. That's not what should be encouraging communication. They shouldn't, have to, say something to get a treat. That's just, not how I like to roll. But what I like, I'm trying to think of how to explain this. I believe that things that we're interested in, those interests are born out of experience, right? So, I'm interested in cooking, but that's because I watched years and years of the Food Network and of, cooking channel stuff. And my kids were watching Chopped, the cooking show. And so I became interested because I became more knowledgeable, and then I knew how to do more things. And then eventually I became interested in cooking. But if I had never been exposed to cooking, how would I be interested in cooking? So one of the really big challenges is when we have kids or adults who have significant disabilities, already their lives, they don't have the same experiences that a person, who's typically, and not because the people that are their parents or their caretakers are bad people. It's, sometimes it's really hard to manage the physical needs, and so that there end up being just less life experiences, and life experiences are what kind of develops that richness of language and interest. So in my mind, it is our job to provide those experiences and develop those things that start to motivate them. We're not going to know, it may be that when we first work with them, we only know that they like M&Ms. But then we need to figure out, we need to poll parents. I'll often give, years ago, it was called a remnant book. And what a remnant book did was, you said, okay, parents, can you send me in anything that your child does at home that they really like? So it could be a photograph when you went to the zoo. It could be a movie stub from when you went to see your last movie. It could be a piece of hair from when you got a haircut last week. And then we would take those old fashioned photo albums and rip the thing open and then slap that disgusting, hair in there. But then it was something to talk about that they had experienced. And in the beginning, maybe they didn't have the language. So we said, oh, hair. I think this means you got a haircut. And then we would model it. But the more we talk about it, and the more we can engage them with it and do, then I might pull up an app where there used to be an app called Silly Billy where you'd give this sheep a haircut. I might have pulled up Silly Billy or Toca Hair Salon 4, or, and it doesn't have to be an iPad. It could be, I could even possibly grab a piece of paper and say, all right, let's say what do you think their hair should be? Well, what color should it be? So I'll pick some things, and then I think one of the things that really helps is when you have the AAC user, the AAC learner direct you with their language. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of therapists make is they hand them the iPad or they hand them the computer, which they might really want. But as soon as we hand them the toy or the activity, a lot of times we lose them in terms of language, because then they're like, they're all focused on, manipulating it possibly. So, I like to do where, so where should I, so I have activities where there's like hidden things on the screen. In Canva, I'll make a magnifying activity. If you make a background, so like say it's orange, and then you take a letter and make it the exact same color as the background, like A, E. So now I might have, A, B, D, whatever, a bunch of letters kind of all over the screen. But if the letters and the background are the same color, you can't see them. If you then take a magnifying glass image that has like a white magnifying glass, and you make sure that's not in the foreground, but it's not all the way in the background, if you make sure it's in between, then your stuff magically appears.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than having them take the mouse or them take the touch screen, I'd be like, okay, where do we got to go? Up, down. So then we can teach all those over, left, right, higher, lower. I mean, there's so many things that they could be, in the corner, whatever they say. And then wherever they say, that's where I go.
Absolutely.
And then I might say, so it's, and again, I know that my style is different than some people's, but I have found that to be really successful in that we need to develop their interests. So I send home a survey to parents. It's now a Google form, and I ask them to tell me what their kids are really into. Is it a game? To be very specific. Is it a video game? Is it do they like doing the laundry? Like, I don't care what it is. But what I tell them is do a day map. Think of when you wake up in the morning till the end of the day, and think of a loose routine. Obviously, we don't have the same routines at home necessarily as we do in school. But you wake up. Okay, so around wake up time, what sticks out to you? What do you guys do? What seems to be something that they like more? And then, you go through the day, and a lot of times you can find, well, they really seem to like it, when they get to mow the lawn with dad. That seems to be, like a highlight. So then my activity would be some kind of thing where I would get like a lawnmower or a lawnmower graphic or lawnmower audio or a picture of a dad on a lawnmower or that dad. I would do something to kind of capitalize on that little piece and then try to go from there. Because then maybe from lawnmowers, we could go to other machines, or we could kind of piggyback and do other things. And then we really want to broaden their repertoire and broaden their experience so that they do have more things to be motivated about. The last piece about that is that we tend to say, oh, well, this child is stuck in this interest that's not age appropriate. So we have a child maybe that's 12, but they still want to watch, I don't know, Doc McStuffins. I'm trying to think of something more, I'm
Geared
thinking
towards
Barney
younger.
because
Yeah.
I'm old. Yeah. but let's say Doc McStuffins. And, in our minds, Doc McStuffins is not age appropriate. And we do it is a good idea to provide things that are age respectful. We have to be careful about, denying what an individual likes. I've spoken with adults on the autistic spectrum that have been very clear that, yes, I know that talking about Barney is not really something that all adults do, but I like to talk about Barney. Mm-hmm. So I don't want you to tell me it's not age appropriate. So I think in the beginning I was a little bit more, stringent about it's got to be age appropriate. But now, in speaking with a bunch of folks, I've realized what we need to do is broaden the experiences, have all those opportunities, but we need to respect what the interests are in the beginning and then try to, to build those.
Yeah, that's the piece that speaks to the
Yeah.
autonomy of their interests, and not telling them what their interests should be. So I
Yeah.
love that. I also really like how you highlighted directing others' actions, because I think so often we fall into the realm of making a choice or doing something that shows knowledge, or we give them a piece of technology to show what they know, and we lose that social connection piece. So everything you're highlighting, it gives them the control. It supports initiation of communication while still building the social connection in a way that's super motivating.
That's also one of my big areas of I presented on that this is what we're after. We're after creating an individual's ability to connect with other people. We're not after creating an ability to use the word cat when we see a feline with pointy ears and whiskers. We're trying to give them language where they can say what they want, when they wanted to say it, and to whom. And that's was a loosely quoted, it's not quoted exactly, but from Gail Porter, who created Pod, that we, that's the goal, is that we can say what we want to say, to whom we want to say it, when we want to say it, including when we don't want to say something.
Having the ability to not respond or say that I don't want to respond. Yeah, absolutely. There, you have a brilliant mind, a brilliant creative mind. And so I know we could really dive down the rabbit hole of resources. You've mentioned Canva, you've mentioned Google Slides. I know you've done AR and dove into augmented reality. If someone is looking for resources to support following a student's lead, following an individual's lead, any other ones that you can think of that they could explore, other than specific ones like a virtual field trip to the pyramids?
Right. Right. And some of them would like that. Yeah. I tend to like open-ended things. So that's why I mentioned Google Slides or Canva. I am a huge Canva fan. And I don't know if all educators realize that if you are a K-12 educator, you get the whole shebang, Canva Pro, for free, as long as you use the email that's associated with the organization that you're working for. And Canva is not a special education tool, but it's so open-ended, and there's so many graphics, and there's so many pieces to it that you can use that I feel like it gives you that. You talked about flexibility earlier, that you can just start with a blank screen and be like, oh, I heard you went somewhere this weekend. I wonder where it was. And let's say they don't tell me, they don't say anything. I'd be like, you know what? I heard from your mom that you went to the zoo. And then I would be like, a zoo, huh? Well, I think there's some pictures of a zoo. So, and I would just go into photos and I just find something of like a zoo background. And I could Google it, or I could go within Canva. I mean, you can do this. It doesn't have to be Canva. It could be Google Slides, and then you're Googling and copying, pasting. Copying, pasting, and screenshots are my friend. Mm-hmm. So, then I'd be like, oh, I wonder what animals you saw. I know when I go, so I always try to, whatever I want them to do, I try to model it first. So I'll say, oh, I know when I go to the zoo, I always go straight for the monkeys. And then I might, I find a monkey and I'll say, oh, I like the one at the top, the brown one with the smile. Let's use him. Then I might say, well, what about you? And I give kind of a much broader, not tell me what animal you saw. I might start with, what about you? And then, seem really interested and cock my head and be like, what do you think? And give them time. When I share my boot camp graphic, one of those items that a lot of times people are not doing is, many individuals with complex communication needs have significant processing delays. And we give them like 1 second in our head, and then we think, okay, they're not saying I'm gonna pew. But if we just waited, we might have a completely different experience. Now, waiting is uncomfortable and humans don't like it. So you might have to count in your head. So I do. I count in my head because I'm not any different than any other human. Because I'll jump in too, and I talk a lot. So that's kind of an example
Well,
of
and you
what I might do.
did something too that I think is such a good strategy that teams can pick up on, and parents too, that you gave an open-ended question. I love the declarative statements too, like that, just giving them the option to respond with anything. Because again, we don't know what they want to say. Like, what if they then say McDonald's and you're like, oh, maybe I need to just do some detective work and find out, did they go to McDonald's after the zoo? Like, did they go? And they
Right.
have that
And that's
ability.
the benefit. Yeah. That's the benefit of using an open-ended tool. Whether that's a white piece of paper and you're drawing, or whether that's a computer, or whether it's like a big bag. I'm the kind of person that likes to have a huge bag of random objects, or a huge bag of random wind-up toys, where I can find things in there no matter what. There's going to be animals, there's going to be things, there's going to be foods, there's going to be, where there's just this kind of random mix, but I can just kind of pull something that relates to what they've started. Because it may be that I started with I think, oh, you know what, the zoo, that's what they were there. That's what they're going to want to talk about. And they may be like zooed out, and they may have absolutely no interest in talking about the zoo, but they were excited about the McDonald's fries they got at the zoo. So then I noticed that they're talking about McDonald's, and then I might change gears. Oh, McDonald's. Should we talk about McDonald's instead? Oh, I think we need a different background. I wonder what that should be. And then so follow their lead I actually got a shirt. It says follow their lead, from, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name of their company. During the pandemic, the kind of like virtual reality.
Is it Learn, Play, Thrive?
Using like Zoom. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So Learn, Play, Thrive, they have a t-shirt that they sell that says let them lead, or let kids lead, or something like that. So I, of course, bought that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Another good example too of not putting too much energy in stock ahead of time, and kind of, I always tell my type A SLPs, like, they want it all planned out. They want their thematic units and pull it from a box, and you got to go off script.
Yeah, it doesn't. So I had so I have been a full-time consultant for years, since 2008. But about a year or two ago, I was suddenly handed a caseload, small caseload, but a caseload. And it was a caseload of very complex secondary school students. Mm. And I spent all this time making this activity that I asked what the teacher what the kids liked, and the one, like, she really liked Beyonce and music and stuff. So I made this, like, I took like a blank book that had Velcro at the top, and I like basically made like a custom book to talk about our singers, and with different choices and like things that we could talk about. And I spent all this time. She had absolutely no interest in that, none. So like then after that, I was like, no, I'm going to do what I always did. I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants, and I'm going to bring, a big bag of stuff. I'm going to have a bag of objects. I'm going to have a bag of noisy makers, a bag of sensory things that I can, no matter what, I can reach into that goodie bag and pull something out that seems to fit with what they're heading toward.
And I love too that we're talking not just about technology. We've mentioned a lot of high technology pieces of equipment or resources, but it doesn't have to be high tech. Like, light tech is sometimes the best tech. Pulling out a bag of stuff.
It really doesn't. Yeah. I am a person that's also known for walking through the dollar store or Five Below or something like that. And, seeing something like, so I was in the airport yesterday in Austin, and I'm standing there in one of those little, buy your candy and overpriced water shops and overpriced souvenirs. And in there are these two, now Schilling is like a toy maker that I like. They have a lot of like kind of open-ended fun things. And I think they've been around for quite a while. And the one was a cat with its mouth open, sold with it was like a squeezy cat with its mouth wide open, and it was sold with 3 pom-poms, and they were hairballs. So I didn't buy it there because it was the airport, but I took a picture of it to find it online to see if I could find it cheaper. And then right next to it, there were these little, like, they're not spiders, but they were like, imagine like a koosh ball, tiny little koosh ball that's all black. They were like these creepy crawlies, but they were made of that stuff that when you throw it on the wall, it sticks. So there was a whole thing of these little spiky pretend critters that you could chuck against the wall that would then like fall down, and it could go on your skin, it could stick on you, and oh my gosh, there's one on your forehead, like, or put one on yourself, and do you see anything wrong?
Like have it put it on someone's back and like make a joke out of it all day.
So like those kinds of things, I think that we are too into pre-prescribed topics and lessons, and I mean sometimes they can be great, and sometimes we do want to try to maybe start there because we have to follow a particular theme in school, but I think we get to be too stuck in that, and we do that at the expense of true language and interest and all that stuff.
Well, and I think too, because we get stuck because we have to see kids in groups, and we've got certain time parameters we have to get everything done in, and so it can feel super busy. But I love like the framework that you're talking about is like just writing those 3 bullet points of things that we're going to kind of highlight and target, and then leaving room for breathing room, essentially. Can be so helpful. So
yeah, I also think that it's very helpful if we have the release to do so, to video record those sessions, because there are things we miss, especially if it's a group, because we may be, focusing on Susie when, maybe Sally did something that was very communicative, but we completely missed it.
And
if we can get video, if we can get releases from families to let us take videos so that we can, go back and look at them and see what we're missing, that can be huge. It also is huge in terms of, oh my gosh, I am talking too fast. I'm talking too much. I'm not waiting long enough. I was expecting her to say something specific there. You can take the list of best practices and then watch yourself and but that's how you can learn.
Yep, grow and learn. And lots of we've highlighting it this season, but just knowing how to move forward as a good communication partner and having those skills. There's some instructional models that we'll be highlighting in other episodes. But
great.
Before I let you go, Lauren, we ask everybody that's on about their favorite AAC moment thus far. I know that it could be endless. It could be with someone that you've worked with or just for yourself.
There's so many. Yeah, I saw that in the example and I was trying to think. I'll give, there are many. But I worked with 2 young ladies. They were 11 years old. They were in a residential facility because they were basically locked in. So the only thing they could do was move their eyes, but they were 11 when I started working with them. They had nothing. They had no AAC. And I ended up getting those 2 girls eye gaze systems. So they were then talking about Hannah Montana or whatever was big at the time. And just, these 2 girls who, they were identical twins. And who had such incredible needs, but I knew they were in there, so like they got to talk about what they wanted to talk about, what other kids were watching, and that's pretty big when you have someone who's locked in and then all of a sudden they experience communication for the first time and autonomous communication about what they want to talk about. So that was pretty powerful.
Oh, so magical. And just the fact that they're twins too, like we could probably go down the rabbit hole of just your experience with them. But thank you so much for coming on today. If someone has a follow-up question or just really has something that is picking, is kind of nagging their brain, what's the best way to reach you or to kind of follow in your footsteps?
I think probably the easiest way to reach me is through my professional Facebook page. That's how a lot of people kind of end up connecting with me. Um, my work email is pretty crazy. So I think it's a little easier if people do contact me on social media. I got married right before the world closed. And then there was the confusion about, well, I have this, name in AAC that, everybody knows me as Lauren Enders. So I was a little hesitant. And then Social Security wasn't even open. So I couldn't change my name because, the world was closed. But at this point, I've been married for almost 3 years and my husband's amazing. And, I want to be Lauren Gonzales. So I am going to be this year transitioning to Lauren Gonzales, which is my married name, my new awesome husband. And I will probably have Enders in parentheses for a while, just so that people realize that it's me. But that's going to be, something that I'm going to do. So I'm probably going to change my Facebook page soon to say Enders Gonzales, but it'll still be my picture. It'll still be the same site. But I just figured I might as well get that out there that, yeah.
It's changing. Well, congratulations.
My hubby's name.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are out of time. So let me just say for Innovative AAC Solutions, thank you so much to Lauren for being on today. Thank you for the resources as always. And just, I love the way your mind works. So can't wait to see more from you in the future.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Hi guys, it's Cheryl. Today during the interview, Laura and Lauren Enders were talking about ways to motivate kids to make using their AAC systems fun. So let's talk about the fact that she mentioned Canva. So some of you may be very familiar with Canva, use it every day. Others of you, like me, have used it a few times, but I can't say that I've mastered it. But I wanted to expose you to at least some things so that if you weren't already familiar, you might check it out and get to do things that you hadn't taken advantage of before. Canva is a free software, or actually it's a website. You're not downloading, you're going straight to a website. And they have paid subscriptions. And if you work for a school district, they you might be able to get the paid version free once you've documented and prove that you do work for the district. So check into that. What I'm showing you today is the free version. What the difference is the free has a lot of stuff. The professional has more stuff. So when we get into finding graphics and things, they'll let you know what's free and what's not. And you can even, pay for a graphic if you really need it for something that you're making. But for the sake of today, I'm thinking about the kids that were sitting there in therapy. We're going to create something. They're going to help me create it. It's not me choosing, it's them. So that's where we're going to get a lot of opportunities for them to communicate, to express their desires, but to enjoy, to have fun. And that's something that hopefully will, again, promote a lot of communication opportunities. So we're going to do a presentation, and a presentation like PowerPoint, Google Slides, things like that. We're going to start with a blank canvas. So I'm just going across the top row here, and it says create blank. So I've got a blank screen here that I can do whatever I need to. And on the left-hand side, on the far left, it says elements. So those are our graphics. And so then I'm going to put in things that I'm searching for. So it's getting to be wintertime. Snow will be coming. So let's talk about snowman. So I'm going to just say I'm looking for snowman. Put word snowman in. If I click on, it has graphics, it has photos, it has videos, it has some audio here too. If I click on see all of my graphics, then I can pick which one I want. And this is where you'll see the little crowns. When I put my cursor over there, that means it's a professional version. So either you get those when you have the professional version, or you can pay for the graphic if it's something that you're creating in like a one-time fee that you would buy for that particular thing that you're creating. But and again, that's something that you would have to check into further. But for right now, I'm using everything that's free. So I'm going to choose this snowman. So he pops over here. I can move him around. I can adjust his size. And I say, okay, well, that looks cute, but what else do we need? And so maybe, my student tells me snow. It's like, oh, okay, let's find some snow. We've got animated snow. We've got just regular snow. I like this big snowflakes. And again, like other graphic programs, you see that it comes to the forefront, but I want it to go to the back. So when it's highlighted, when you see this purple box around it, and up here at the top of the right hand side of the screen, it says position, I'm going to tell it to go backwards. So my snowflakes are going to go to the back, and my snowman now is up front. So he said, okay, well, we got a snowman. What else? What else do we need? So maybe we're going to put some animals in here. So maybe we're going to look for a squirrel. So I click on squirrel. All kinds of different squirrels. Again, lots of them are free. So I'm going to find a free one. Oh, I like this little guy with the nut here. He looks like he's sharing with the snowman. So we've got a squirrel. Oops. What about, did I duplicate him? I think I did. Yeah, I clicked on the plus sign. So you can, well, I guess I should start that. If you do the plus, we could have multiple squirrels. We can have a squirrel family. Let's say we're going to get a bird in our picture. There's all kinds of different birds we could be looking at. Oh, let's see. Maybe we really like cardinal. So there is one. What happens if I type in the word cardinal? And then we get more options. So I'm going to go with this guy and put him up here in the corner. And again, change the size. So he's watching us. I'll put the other squirrel down here a little bit further. Yep. Okay. Now I got multiple cardinals. Didn't mean to do that. Have to watch where my purple box is. Okay. So we can make a scene. We can make it be, you know, maybe this is a very serious winter scene. You might see this on a Christmas card. But let's say all of a sudden now we need somebody to jump in here, and let's make it, well, maybe my student is really into alligators. So to be silly, which is what makes life fun, is when we can laugh, I'm going to add this alligator to my picture. So then we can talk about, I don't know that the alligators like the snow, but you never can tell. So that's just a fun being silly. They get to pick. We could do superheroes. Maybe we need to have, let's see if we put in Batman. Let's see. A lot of the name characters are going to be professional because there's a copyright charge for them. Maybe it wasn't such a great idea. How about if I say superhero? There we go. We can find somebody that kind of maybe looks like somebody we recognize. Maybe he's going to pop in here too. And let's see, if we click animate, then maybe he's going to just kind of fly in. What would be a good, let's say he's going to pop. Okay. So when we go and we present this, just a standard presentation, then you can see our superhero here he popped into the picture. If I hit escape, let's change him to, maybe he's going to breathe. So again, if we present, then you see him kind of coming in, and then he kind of click on something else. I guess he just breathes the one time. So fun things like that. So this could be fun. This could be something we could giggle about and do all kinds of, sharing and talking about. Well, let's say we need another page. Well, this time, let's talk about animated characters. So let's use the word jump. So we got this guy's jumping. We'll put him over here. And this guy's jumping. We can put him over here. And what else can we find? So who else is free that jumps? Oh, there's a guy jumping rope. Let's see. Back to our. Oh, here's a little lamp that's jumping. So fun, being silly. If I say I'm going to present this, then when you bring it up, they're just having a great time jumping. So my idea here was, and you escaped to exit that. My idea here was something that the students get to look at your screen and point to or indicate, however is easiest for them. You may do an auditory scan where you say, well, you want this one? Do you want this one? And then they can tell you, and then you together have created a masterpiece.
Hey guys, Laura here. And so for our innovative activity this week, we're going to talk about this really fun game that is called Gas Out. It's a card game, and oh, it's green, so you're not going to be able to see it very well on my screen. But you've got cards, a deck of cards, and then you've got this little guy right here with a face on him, and think of like the fart emoji. This guy, and it's a little bit like hot potato mixes with Uno. You have, I think, up to 4 players, and only because of the number of cards. If you wanted to copy these and like make more cards, pass them out, or find another way to do groups, you could add more students to this game. But you have a deck of cards, and you pass out 3 cards to each player. On the side of the cards, there are different types of cards with instructions. So you've got numbers of cards. Again, you've got a reverse, and then you've got a skip. You can't see any of them because, of course, the green screen. But it's really fun in the sense that you pass out these 3 cards, and then the player, when it's their turn, decides which card they're going to play. The whole idea is that you're going to, when it's your card, place a card down and follow the instructions. So if you have the number 1 and you place that card down, you would activate this little fella 1 time. And the goal is to stay in the game. So he has little fart bubbles that he makes, and then he farts. And if he farts on your turn, then you're out. And then the rest of the players keep playing, so that anytime you have a card, you always have 3 cards in your hand, and you keep playing until someone is the winner. Where does language fall in this? There are so many opportunities with any card game, but I mean, come on, fart motivated card games is where it's at. So we could do things like your turn, my turn, I go, you go, call out a person by name. Oh, it's stinky. We can comment about it. Whose turn next? You could simulate some farts on the smartboard while you're doing it. So you could have different types. You could have a big fart, a little fart. You could talk about the type of bubbles, like, oh, it didn't fart, right? It didn't do it, or I didn't do it. So there's all different types of functions that you can target while you are playing this game. Again, it doesn't have to all be core vocabulary. We could have little comments or phrases of that stinky, I don't like it, pu, like gross be out. Anything that you can think of that would be kid humor related to farts is fair game in this game. So again, it's called Gas Out. We're going to put this in the IRC with language target resource for you guys, so that you can check this out and play it with your kids and target some of that vocabulary and have just a gas out time.
All right, Laura, that did not disappoint. I felt like I was at one of those conferences I was referring to earlier, that she has got all kinds of good information, and she comes across as so genuine. You know, it's like you guys were chatting about things, and it was just stuff that she already had tried, done, as opposed to somebody who's lecturing and trying to, convince us of something. So yeah, that was good. I always enjoy listening to Lauren.
And it's nice to kind of get into her mind too, and how she's thinking, because so often we do hear about these AAC users or just students in general that kind of get stuck, or nothing motivates them, and how can we tap in, or they're just not motivated by their device, or they're not motivated to communicate, or whatever the case may be. So I love the attack she has, and her perspective, and how she really just gets creative, because that's really what it's about, right? It's about how we can create a positive experience, a positive lesson design, so that they are motivated to have that social connection to autonomously communicate. We keep going back to that, but that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think for those of us that are adults in the setting where we're trying to make them do something, I think we need to give up on the fact that, you know, they're there to just be compliant and they're just there to answer our questions. We need to let them take the lead more so that the motivation of sharing is so much greater. So we as adults we can learn a lot from all this too.
Yeah. Sometimes that contrary control is what you're going to see when you come to those situations where, yeah, totally agree. Okay. So this wraps us for this year, 2022. We hope you guys have a wonderful winter break, and we have some really exciting interviews coming up for 2023. So stay tuned. If there's a topic or something that you're interested in that you want more to listen and learn more about, just reach out to us. And happy end of 2022.
Yeah, and take advantage of all the resources. I think we have always, you listen to the podcast, you automatically see those things, but just share with your peers and with your friends and stuff that they can just go to the site and get the resources too. Is it just a quick, kind of thing. So make sure you take advantage of some of this time where you can just be scrolling through and finding new ways to start the new year.
Right. Yeah, we always post them there and all the archives are there. And now everything lives on the YouTube channels. You can always go back and they're all clipped. The time is clipped. So if you're like, I only have 5 minutes, you could always go back and say, oh, I just need a new activity. Let me check out some of the episodes, innovative activities. And those lists and those support resources, every activity has a core list that you can target to. That's available on the AAC. All right. Without further ado, I am Laura Hayes.
And I'm Cheryl Livingston.
We'll see you next year.